The following is a special production of the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Welcome to Tough Enough, a recap and breakdown show from the MMA Outsiders following every episode of The Ultimate Fighter Season 31, Team McGregor versus Team Chandler. And now, here are your hosts, Tom Albano and Zain Bando.
Oh, hello, Tough fans. Well, that was quite the first fight now, wasn't it? I want to welcome everybody out there to something new from the MMA Outsiders, something new from the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. This is what we call Tough Enough. This is the Ultimate Fighter Aftermath. So, if you have caught the last edition of the MMA Outsiders, last edition of the bench, you kind of know you're a bit of it. If not, for those of you who are just tuning in, like, what the hell is this? So, my co-host and I, Zain Bando. Zain is not here today, unfortunately, because this is just how some things just seem to happen. Internet connection issues. And so, he wasn't able to really see the episode. Wasn't really able to get any online connection whatsoever. And it's not even strong enough to do any streaming. So, Zain is not here right now. He apologizes. This obviously is out of his control. And so, we're going to hope that next week, when we do the second episode, he will be here. But, you're stuck with me. So, I'm Tom Albano. I am a contributor over at Fansided MMA. Zain obviously is a staff writer for BJPen.com and a Bellator Rankings committee member. I'm Tom Albano, Fansided MMA, and very soon we'll be doing some stuff on the side for the PFL. Make sure to hit that like button. So obviously this is different. This is not traditional Empty the Bench podcast network means where we just go to YouTube plus the audio only platforms. This is a live stream special, so we are broadcasting on the Empty the Bench YouTube channel, as well as to the Empty the Bench Network's Facebook and Twitter accounts, as well as the MMA Outsiders Facebook and Twitter accounts. So, whichever platform you're on, hit a like button, hit a retweet if you're on Twitter. Make sure to follow us. Make sure to subscribe. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that notification bell when you subscribe so you get notified of everything here on the Empty the Bench Network. There is obviously the MMA Outsiders and our audio-only feeds, as well as the YouTube feed itself. So check all that out. And again, on Tom Albano, you can follow me on Twitter at Thomas J. Albano. All right, let's get into the episode. And obviously, there's live chats going on. So please feel free, leave a comment. I'll respond to it. If you're on Twitter, I don't know if the comments will show up. Yeah, on some destinations. So if you're on Twitter, hit a reply, hit a retweet. We will get to you. And so let's just dig into the episode itself. So let's start with our teams being selected. So obviously this season coached by Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. There's all the brouhaha with their fight. When is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? McGregor still as of yet to be in the USADA pool. I don't know. Maybe he'll get some sort of exemption, or maybe he'll actually enter it. And then if he enters it, maybe we're looking at December. Zain and I have been kind of on the radar of that it's going to happen at some point in December with the UFC's pay-per-view. I think if I look at my dates, yeah, it would be if we go by how UFC has been traditionally doing their schedule for the last 4 or 5 years, December 9th would probably be the pay-per-view. That was probably where McGregor and Chandler would fight. And you could already feel the tension in the air. You know, there was all that seemed like goody good shoes. You know, hey, we wish you the best of luck. Good to see you. And here's McGregor teasing about, oh, maybe we can fight at 185. And then telling Chandler, you'll do what you're told. Because, of course, that's what Conor McGregor would say. And, of course, Conor McGregor would have his way. I mean, just see the clip of Zain and I talking about the bloody elbow report. Anyway, team selected. They did it really interesting this year, and I kind of really like it because they're promoting this season as the prospects versus the veterans. So we're thinking, okay, there's a mix of prospects and veterans across both weight classes. Maybe it'll be a mix of both. That's picking the teams like how Tough is traditionally done. No, instead, what happened for those who had missed it, which by the way, I'll give 5 seconds. If you have watched this show, you could stay here, but if not, quickly mute me, quickly get out of the tab or whatever. So 5 seconds. Okay. So here's how it worked. You had McGregor and Chandler. They did the traditional coin toss, which McGregor won. McGregor did not get the choice between first fight and first fighter as Tough tradition. Instead, Dana split up the pool of lightweight and bantamweight. So four lightweight prospects, four lightweight veterans, four bantamweight prospects, four bantamweight veterans. And McGregor got to choose which group he wanted. He wanted the lightweight prospects, and therefore Chandler got the lightweight veterans. Chandler then got to choose between the prospects and veterans of 135, and he chose the veterans. So it truly will be a prospects versus veterans kind of season. And so that leads us now into the fights themselves. So I kind of like it was kind of weird, but I kind of like how they did the teams this year. Um we go into the fights themselves with the training. So what happened is each team got a training session. McGregor and Chandler then each ranked 1 through 4 into their lightweights and 1 through 4 with their bantamweights, and the matchups would play out from there. So the first fight was selected, and it was number 3 Roosevelt Roberts from Team Chandler. And because he was ranked number 3 lightweight for a veteran, he would take on the number 2 prospect from Team McGregor, who was Nate Jennerman. Then for bantamweight, McGregor selected his second bantamweight prospect, Trevor Wells, who will take on Timur Valiev. That'll actually be the fight this next week. Roberts and Jennerman was the fight this week. We'll get into that. So here are the matchups. For those who may have missed it or went too fast, you didn't get the full view and everything. Let's go into that right now. So for the lightweights tonight, we had Roosevelt Roberts versus Nate Jennerman from Team McGregor. We're gonna have number 2 Austin Hubbard from Team Chandler taking on number 3 Aaron McKenzie from Team McGregor. Then you're gonna have number 1 Lee Hammond from Team McGregor taking on number 4 Kurt Hollabaugh from Chandler's veterans. You're gonna have number 1 Jason Knight from Chandler's veterans taking on number 4 Landon Quinones from McGregor's prospects. At bantamweight, like I said, next week you're gonna have number 2 Trevor Wells from McGregor's prospects taking on number 3 Timur Valiev from Chandler's veterans. You're gonna have number 1 Mando Gutierrez from McGregor's prospects taking on number 4 Cody Gibson from Chandler's veterans. Number 2 Brad Katana from Chandler's veterans taking on number 3 Carlos Vera from McGregor's prospects. And number 4 Rico DeCiulio from McGregor's prospects taking on number 1 Hunter Azur from Chandler's veterans. So if you saw MMA Outsiders episode 40, you know my thoughts on who I have as my top 3 for each weight class. So you have Quinones and McKenzie, who McGregor has 4 and 3 as his ranking for lightweight, which I found very interesting. And then I think I went with Kurt Hollabaugh who was number 4 in Chandler's prospect. So I'm going with a little lower ranked guys, although you never know. Some of these guys might have been seeded where they are in case, trying to play mind games with the other coach and potential matchups there. See, Brad Katana, he's another guy I had my eye on in terms of the bantamweights. He's number 2 on Chandler's veterans. Hunter Zur too, but I kind of wrote him off. But I mean, come on. And I'm sure Zain, once he sees this, he's gonna be laughing because really, I picked as my top 2 guys at bantamweight to win this whole thing, Trevor Wells and Timur Valiev, and they're gonna be fighting next week. One of them's gonna be a first round elimination. That is just the way that the cookie crumbles, I guess. At this, how the picking process worked this time around. But that's a fantastic fight, Wells versus Valiev. in my opinion, like I kind of alluded to, that could have been a potential finals for bantamweight. We're gonna get that in the first round. Interesting to note. So Lee Hammond from Team McGregor, he's only 5-0, but he's one of McGregor's boys over at SBG. He's one of McGregor's boys over at SBG, only 5-0, and for whatever reason, I mean, he's going to be picked number one because, of course, he is. That's McGregor, but he gets matched up with Kurt Hallbaum. For whatever reason, you could see, you could kind of see Lee Hammond kind of look away, kind of like this, looking around, eye, that basically he didn't seem to want anything, which was kind of weird. But at the same time, I've been told by somebody that I know that basically that seems to just be his thing. He doesn't really look people in the eye, and he didn't look somebody in the eye when they were interviewing him. But you never know. You never know what could come of that. But I mean, for somebody who's only 5-0 and we don't know too much about, having to take on somebody like Kurt Hallball, who's a veteran. I've talked to Kurt before. He's a really talented guy. I mean, that might be a really bad matchup for Lee Hammond. On the other side of things, the other thing I found interesting was, so if you remember, Zain and I were talking and assuming the old TUF selection process, we said, all right, we got Lee Hammond, but then we also got Brad Katana, who trains out of Ireland, who trains out of SPG, who McGregor will probably pick. But because of the veteran prospect thing, Brad Katana ends up on Team Chandler. So Brad Katana was asked about that during the Team Chandler training session, the first one, and he basically told the camera that he's well aware that some of his teammates are going to be wondering where his allegiance lies. Some of them might think, he might be a mole. Chandler said, I bet you he wants to be on Team McGregor, but, this is just how things are. And Brad Katana tells the camera, they might be thinking I might be some sort of mole. I might be, I might want to go to Team McGregor. I don't want to be here. But here's Brad Katana's quote: "My only allegiance is with Brad Katana." Now, something interesting about Brad Katana as well, he has TUF experience before. He won the Ultimate Fighter undefeated season. I think it was season 27 with Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. And things just didn't really go his way. I think he only went like 1-2 or 1-1 or something like that in the UFC his first go around. One of his losses, I believe, was actually to Merab Dvalishvili. And for Brad Katana, this is a really good second chance. And judging by the field, I even said it on the most recent MMA Outsiders. I think Brad Katana is one to watch out for a potential winner for this TUF season. So, fight going on. It's going to be Nate Gentleman versus Roosevelt Roberts. And Nate Gentleman and his backstory is actually, he actually gave his backstory. They did the whole thing as they usually do when the fighters are going to fight. They give their own backstory. So Nate Gentleman, for those who don't know, very experienced guy over in the LFA. He is a prospect, even though he has more fights than Roosevelt Roberts, simply because he doesn't have the UFC experience. So, like I mentioned, longtime LFA vet, and he mentions that he had a lot of wins in the LFA, a lot of interesting wins. He actually beat Kevin Kroom in the LFA. He has a loss to Bobby Moffitt in the LFA, but he makes mention that everything seemed to be going well for him, but then came a fight against Damon Jackson. LFA 47 was fighting for the interim featherweight championship, and Damon Jackson TKO'd him. And 2019 comes around, he has a few more fights, but then he says, oh, there were all these injuries that were lingering, and I didn't feel like myself, so I stepped away for 2.5 years. And in those 2.5 years since he came back, so he lost to Rafael Barbosa, LFA 68, which was in May of 2019. Takes 2.5 years off. Returns in November 2021 with NAFC. Wins against Mike Palazzola and Austin Lutchen. And then actually last year during the regular season stepped in to fight at PFL 4 against Jake Childers and won via rear naked choke in about 2 minutes into the second round. So Nate Jennerman had a pretty interesting backstory. But then there's also Roosevelt Roberts' backstory. Now, Roosevelt Roberts is a UFC veteran. Obviously, his first go around was, I even said it on an Outsiders, was not exactly great. Ends up going 4-4 in the promotion. Um, his whole run. So he was on Contender Series where he submitted Garrett Ross in 2018. Goes into the UFC, submits Daryl Horcher, defeats Thomas Guilford, loses to Vink Pichel, beats Alexander Yakovlev, submits Brock Weaver, which Brock Weaver weighed heavy for, and I'm not a fan of Brock Weaver. And then everything just kind of goes downhill from there. Lost to Jim Miller, lost to Kevin Kroom, though that gets overturned to the no contest after Kroom's marijuana testing. Marijuana testing in September 2020. Kroom had the unbelievable finish in that fight. And then I can't believe they actually showed this. I didn't think that they were going to, or maybe should have, but Roosevelt Roberts, when he got the spinning wheel kick knocked out by Ignacio Balmondes. But at that point, and it's actually kind of good in retrospect that they did show it, because what ended up happening was he discussed that first UFC run, and he basically admitted, I did not take myself as seriously as I should have. I didn't take it all, I didn't take it, I took it for granted. I thought it was just, yeah, cool, I made it. And he ends up paying the price, and that 3-fight winless streak gets released, and basically admits that it took a lot out of him. It crushed him, and basically he ended up going into a lot of, I don't want to say debt, but he ends up losing his house and such. And he admits he hit rock bottom, and he reflects that during his time on the show. He says, sometimes you have to hit rock bottom for you to get back up, which I thought Roosevelt Roth's great motivational quotes, and just great. You could tell the fire was in him, and well, you see what happens later on in the show. One thing to note, by the way, before we get into the fight, McGregor didn't show up for weigh-ins, which I think is a bad message to send to your team. When I mean, I get it. Conor McGregor is the big star, he seems to get away with whatever he wants, but it's just like, come on. That's really bad on you as a coach. That really is terrible for you to do, and not give your guys that support and going in with the weigh-ins. Fortunately, the weigh-ins went smoothly. Both guys made weight, but I mean, come on. And then he just shows up in one of his sports cars the next day for the fight. And it's like, really? It's like, McGregor, I get it. He sort of is the star of the show. It is all about his, comeback after getting his leg broken by Dustin Poirier in their trilogy bout 2 years ago. But really, just really. And it's just, I don't get it, man. I really don't get it. Horrible look. Horrible look by McGregor. Horrible look to your guys. And I wonder if this is just going to become a running thing during the show. Now let's get into the fight itself. It only lasted 9 seconds, and Roosevelt Roberts, he has a fire under him. So he comes in. Roberts comes in pretty aggressively, throws a couple of punches, lands a couple of his jabs. Jennerman's trying to counter. Roberts clips him behind the ear. And those of you who have a little fighting experience, behind the ear is deadly for a fighter. It drops him. He loses balance, drops him. Roberts pounds on him with some ground pound. Very quickly after a few punches, the referee pulls him off. Now, Jennerman sort of got up and protested, "Oh no, no, no!" But it looked like he was out. He was dropped. He was dropped. He wasn't defending himself. Even if he had fully lost consciousness, there's that point where you have to defend yourself smartly as a fighter, and he wasn't doing that. I think good call. It happened so quickly, I didn't even see which referee it was. Was it Herb? I think Herb. Good call by Herb. Stop the fight there. So 9 seconds. Nate Jennerman already one prospect out. So a really solid win for the veterans. A really solid win for Roosevelt Roberts, who will move on. And here's wondering what's going to happen as he gets to his semifinal bout. And Nate, gentlemen, you feel bad for, but you hope that maybe he'll get a second chance somewhere. Next week, though, like I mentioned, really interesting fight. Potential fight of the season. Trevor Wells against Timur Valiev. In my opinion, like I said, potential fight of the season. Two of the top names in the bantamweight weight class in this TUF 31 season. Should be a fun one. I can't wait. I'm leaning a little bit towards Valiev with the experience factor. All right. That was about 20 minutes here, so that's usually where we're going to do 20 to 30 minutes. I would have done a little more, but obviously Zain was not here due to his internet issues. Hopefully he will be here next week. But until then, that's going to do it for the first edition of Tough Enough, the Ultimate Fighter Team McGregor versus Team Chandler Aftermath. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell when you're watching on YouTube so you get notified of everything on the ETB Network, all the MMA Outsiders episodes, all the live streams here for Tough Enough, and so much more. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure to like the page. Make sure to follow the page. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the retweet, hit the follow button. If you still have some comments, I will get to them when I can. Make sure to follow us across social media at MMA Outsiders, ETB, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure to follow the network on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at ETB Network. Zain Bando, my co-host, not here. He's a staff writer at bjpen.com. You can find his work over there, and he's a Bellator Rankings Committee member. Follow him at Zain Bando 99. I'm Tom Albano. Follow me on Twitter at Thomas J. Albano. I'm a contributor to Fanside MMA, and we'll be doing some work for the Professional Fighters League beginning next month. All right, that's gonna do it. Oh, and I should actually note, make sure to check out the audio-only platforms if you don't want to see my face, every time. These you're gonna see on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. These are live streams. But for the MMA Outsiders episodes, you can get, audio-only platforms or on the YouTube feed. All right, now that's really going to do it. For everybody at the Empty Bench Network, from my absent co-host Zain, hopefully he will be here next week. I am Tom Albano. We'll catch you next time. Until then, everybody, keep fighting. Be Joe Piper. See you for episode number 2 of The Ultimate Fighter next week.